Hi all, I'm Antti Knutas from LUT University and I'm privileged to be part of and really happy to present our study on what prevents Finnish women from applying to software engineering roles, a first analysis of survey data. Before we go into the actual presentation, I want to acknowledge the two of the other authors who did a major part of the work, but due to scheduling and technology issues, I am presenting our shared research. A couple of words on motivation and background. Finland is often considered an equal country, but there are still known problems in the gendering of certain professions. Women in Finland still face issues in obtaining software engineering roles, and there is an initiative called Mimmit Koda, which is aiming to widen participation. To help the Mimmit Koda initiative, we conducted a survey to understand what factors are contributing to the barriers that women face. We drew on literature, we framed the survey around issues of gender stereotyping, attitudes, and efficacy, and used these to formulate our hypotheses and survey constructs. And specifically, we had a focus on women who have expressed an interest in technology-related careers and what might affect their willingness to put themselves forward to the role. The survey was conducted in cooperation with Finnish Software and E-Business Association. The survey was sent in the first half of 2019. It was sent over to 3,000 people and we got slightly over 250 responses. Our survey had 48 questions in total, and these questions can also be called individual survey variables. If we discount the demographic questions, we sorted the variables into three levels of survey constructs. First, constructs about the different kind of experiences the respondents had, and we hypothesized that these factors or constructs affect attitudes and self-efficacy, and the attitudes we divided into three types: affective or feeling type of attitude, such as anxiousness about using computers; behavioral, which are about actions or intended actions, such as intending to learn new skills; and finally, cognitive attitudes or current knowledge, for example, current knowledge that it is easier for men to get software programming roles. And then two types of self-efficacy: first general and then specifically computer related. And then we hypothesized that these attitudes and self-efficacies have an effect on women's tendency to seek work in technology careers. A visual representation of our research model can be seen as follows. Each of the boxes is a construct which is composed of several variables, and each line is a hypothesis about the impact of one construct of another. For example, negative experiences affecting attitudes, and these in turn affecting the tendency to work in technology. And our ultimate goal or ultimate hypothesis is to show that these series of constructs and also these mediate the effect of leftmost constructs on working in technology. And we will have a more detailed look at these in the hypothesis testing results slide. As our research method, we used partial least squares with path models that allows validating and hypothesis testing on path models such as shown previously. Due to time limitations, you can find more about the method and how we applied it in our research paper. After hypothesis testing, we found that both negative experiences and the perceived equal opportunities have an effect on tendency to work in technology, specifically mediated through cognitive attitudes and computer self-efficacy. And cognitive attitudes and working in tech had a moderate explanatory power, and the paths had a small to medium effect size, or F squared, and the thin line is small effect size and thick line is a moderate effect size. You can find more details about the hypothesis testing in the paper itself. One additional thing that should be noted, that cognitive attitudes have a negative effect about working in technology, because the questions were framed in such a way that it's a negative perception, whereas computer self-efficacy is a positive perception about their person skills. So the higher the values in cognitive attitudes, the more negative the perception is about technology careers, and the higher the computer self-efficacy, the better is the participants' view about their computing skills. In summary, negative early experiences and perceived lack of equal opportunities had an impact, and our findings support many earlier studies that say that even in the Finnish context, gendering of specific roles exists due to negative experiences and stereotyping. And we have two main contributions. The first is to practice. We identified some of the barriers that provide evidence to activities and decision makers, and second, to the body of knowledge, where we analyzed mediating constructs, whereas previous research has mostly studied direct impact, and these kind of structures have been proposed in literature, but not yet analyzed with empirical evidence. In conclusion, we state that our findings support the idea that improving the situation for women in software engineering roles requires broad strategies that do not only change one individual component, such as outreach activities by universities, but we need to seek to change the perceptions of society as a whole about who can and cannot participate in technology. And we acknowledge and support the earlier ideas by Cheruan and especially by Batistas in 2014 and 2019 papers, who have done a more thorough theoretic exploration about these kinds of issues, and we present more empirical evidence in support of them. And also, if you want to know more after this presentation, please find the link for the preprint below.